Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Triple Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus, joined right now by my friend, co-host, and baseball expert, Haden Raymer. How you doing today, Haden?
I'm doing all right, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on.
Of
It's been a little
course,
bit.
of course, we need our baseball guy, Hayden. We need to
Uh,
do we need some. This is an impromptu rounding third episode right now. We need
yeah,
we need some baseball. It's been too long.
yeah. I mean, I think baseball expert too is probably a little bit too high of praise to be throwing my way, but I
Expert.
appreciate it nonetheless. I know a thing or two about baseball. I know there are balls and strikes involved, and bases and balls, and
That's important.
that's that is important.
Yeah, that's really at the end of the day the basics, bare bones structure, all you need to know for baseball. We'll let you have the honorary expert title at least for our show today. We've got
Thank
a
you.
lot to cover. The MLB free agency has as you were explaining, goes in waves, right? It goes in waves, Hayden. Let explain to the audience here because that's new information for me. And if that's new information for me, Hayden, that's new
Mhm.
information for a lot of people. So give me a little breakdown of the MLB offseason and tell us where we're at right now.
Yeah, so I mean, winter meetings are pretty much over and done with. But if we're gonna backtrack a little bit, obviously the World Series happens. People who, their contracts expire, they don't have any team options, they're just done. They become free agents. Following that, there's about a 7-day period where that team can negotiate with them exclusively. But then they're off into the wilderness. They're no longer tied to an organization. Then there's also a little bit longer window. You have your players who can accept or decline player options, or clubs can opt in or opt out of club options. So there's a little bit later deadline there, and then obviously then there's that non-tender deadline. Players might not be tendered a contract. Usually that's going to be kind of your more fringe 40-man guys, players who might not necessarily be looking to get a big contract. Last offseason, for the Nats fans like Jeremy here, Cal Finnegan was somebody who was non-tendered, and then they brought him back on just a smaller deal. So typically, it's players who they think are going to be overpaid to what they're in line for, what Rays are in line for through arbitration.
Yeah. So we are after the winter meetings, just about at this point. By the time this
Yeah.
airs, we'll be past winter meetings. We are going over all of the big free agencies. This is being recorded on Friday afternoon, December 12th, the 12/12/25 here. So the big news that's currently being fallen out right now. We'll start recent in time and move backwards. I want to talk about the Baltimore Orioles a little bit because they've gone out there and they've got a big fish in Pete Alonso. And this is a really interesting contract because I've heard a lot of conflicting opinions about a lot of different people. Some are saying 5 for 155, way too much. Some are saying this is a steal. Some are saying that the Mets didn't even need him. What's your take on this right now? This is kind of a weird situation for free agency.
Yeah, I mean, baseball, as a massive data revolution within the past 5 or 6 years, basically since 2019, with COVID, with all sorts of new technology emerging. Back in 2010, I think Pete Alonso probably gets in today's money, like a $300 million deal.
For sure.
But because he's an older free agent, he's already 31. And year over year, he's kind of declined. He hasn't hit 40 home runs in the past 3 seasons. I mean, still an elite bat, but again, he's 31, just turned 31, and it's just the numbers are starting to slowly decline. And so these first few years with this contract, it's going to be a great deal for the Orioles, but teams were kind of hesitant to add on that fourth year, let alone a fifth year, which is what he got. And so at that AAV, teams were a little skeptical. I mean, you saw it last offseason with Pete, where he wasn't getting the deal he was looking for. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's looking bad that he didn't accept that 7-year extension that the Mets offered him
I
quite a few
mean,
years ago.
by money wise, he made up for it. That was a 7 year extension that would have gotten him what, like $160 million. I saw some. He's made $207 million over 7 years now. So he's up in his money. He leaves the Mets as the home run leader in their franchise history. Came out today that they didn't even offer him a contract. Now, those two sentences in my mind honestly don't compute. He has been quintessential Met. He can't be Mr. Met because they already have Mr. Met, but he can be the Met. And he kind of has been that. How does this affect them right now, leaving a first baseman that hits 38 home runs? Maybe not 40, but he's a 30 home run guy every year. He is one of the best RBI hitters in all of baseball, which you can talk about how that's a fake stat sometimes, but it's still a big deal. He's kind of the heart and soul of that lineup.
Yeah, no, I mean, and in the clubhouse too, and among the fan base, he was somebody that was kind of beloved in that city. You talk about kind of the heat that Lindor kind of got those first few years. Uh, Pete hasn't gotten any of that. But I mean, I think it's a good deal for the Mets. I mean, you see them trying to move on from a lot of these bigger money guys. I mean, we didn't talk about him yet, but Edwin Diaz left the team, got a giant record-breaking deal with the Dodgers when it comes to AAV. And then you saw them trade away Brandon Nimmo earlier this offseason in a trade for Marcus Simeon. So you see them trying to get younger. Um, and I mean, I think it just opens playing time for some of their younger guys. Juan Soto isn't necessarily the greatest defensive outfielder. Now you can get a little bit more time for him at DH. Mark Vientos then can kind of slot in the first base. You see kind of what they're doing. Obviously, as a fan, it sucks. Saying that they're doing the smart move by not extending a fan favorite and franchise cornerstone type bat. It sucks. Uh, as a fan, but I mean they're doing the smart thing. I think what was it? Not Trevor, Ken Rosenthal today kind of wrote that the Mets. No, it wasn't Ken Rosenthal. It was blanking on his name now. ESPN writer Kylie McDaniel wrote today that the Mets are operating more like the Brewers right now rather than the Mets with all the money that they're offering, which I mean makes sense because the Stearns came over from the Brewers, so I mean it kind of tracks. Uh, but like I said, I mean it sucks as a Mets fan to see somebody who you've been rooting for since 2019 won the home run derby, and kind of just Mets fans fell in love with him with just his goofy attitude and just his personality. It sucks for Mets fans, but on the greener, better pastures, hopefully.
Yeah, the polar bear moves down south to Baltimore, and I think those two teams probably would you say the main characters of this offseason, at least up to this point. The Orioles have been busy, and they've been interesting busy. The Orioles have been the most fascinating team to me. They, of course, go get Pete Alonso. We just talked all about that. They also make a really weird, an interesting trade. I won't say weird because it is weird from one side, maybe both. They trade for Taylor Ward. They give up Grayson Rodriguez. This
Uh,
is, I think, the most fascinating thing that's happened in the baseball offseason so far, at least to me, because this is a one-for-one trade, which, first of all, you don't see very often in any sport, a one-for-one. Second of all, the Orioles desperately need pitching. As much as they need some good bats, which they've gone out and got, they need some starting pitching. But third of all, and this is the biggest thing, the Angels didn't even do a workout for Grayson Rodriguez, from what I'm hearing, which is crazy
that's
for a
standard
guy.
practice, Jeremy.
It shouldn't
It's
be.
it's
This is a
standard.
guy that's
That's
been
standard
injured.
practice in MLB. You never do a workout before you trade for the
I
player.
I don't care if
They
there is a
send you the
guy.
medicals, and then that's it. That's how it is in every MLB trade ever.
I don't care. This is an injured guy that we don't know is going to be the same. I want to know that he's going to be on the field if I'm the Angels.
Well, I mean, they clearly, when they received those medical reports from the Orioles, they clearly saw enough that they were content giving away Taylor Ward.
Which I don't know. What's your read on this one? Because this one I still can't wrap my head around, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, from a value standpoint, I think is kind of where you're kind of struggling to wrap your head around. Where we saw last time we saw Grayson Rodriguez, he was this ace type pitcher for the O's. Taylor Ward is a great corner outfielder, but he's not an MVP type corner outfielder. He's an all star. Maybe in a strong year, he's not even an all star type bat. So I mean, from a value standpoint, it kind of doesn't make any sense. But like you laid out, Grayson Rodriguez is hurt a lot over the past 2 seasons. Has barely thrown a pitch. So I mean, it makes sense for the Angels. You're betting on that upside. From the Orioles, you're hoping Taylor Ward has a great year. Then you extend him a qualifying offer, and you get a compensation pick for him. And that's where you kind of recoup some of that value from losing a great arm like Grayson Rodriguez. You're trusting your draft process. I think there was some rumors of Grayson not being necessarily the personality that the Orioles front office enjoyed. There was some hard feelings between the two. So from that standpoint, it kind of makes sense that the O's would want to move on from him. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it is tough to kind of wrap your head around. I agree.
Who would you say comes out? It's really hard to say this because they're playing much different positions, but who do you think comes out on top on that trade right now?
I mean, I would say probably the Angels, assuming that Grayson Rodriguez throws 100 innings over the next 3 years.
Yeah. That's the big assumption. That's the thing you
Yeah,
gotta be careful for. Because if he doesn't pitch, you just gave up an all-star for nothing. Which
yeah.
with the Angels' track record of making moves like this, I honestly wouldn't be shocked if that ended up happening.
Well, I will say with the Angels though, I mean, their outfield situation is a little weird, to kind of put it mildly. Mike Trout obviously isn't Mike Trout anymore, or like the Mike Trout. His name is still Mike Trout. Uh, he's playing a lot of corner outfield, playing a lot of DH. You don't really want Joe Adell playing center field every day. And then you also then have Jorge Soler, who's probably best at DH, also kind of that trio having to rotate through the corner outfield spots. So it makes sense. Hey, we can get value for Taylor Ward. Let's move off of him. This is probably the best offer that they've received, or the best value they perceived. Um, so I mean, from their standpoint, it makes sense to move Taylor Ward for whatever package they think is worth it. You saw them trying to shop him at the trade deadline the past few seasons. So moving him when they still could this offseason makes a lot of sense. And I think now they just need to find their everyday center fielder. I mean, this Angels team is starting to look okay.
Yeah? Maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe?
I mean, not a playoff team, but I think they're gonna win 80 games.
I'm curious how that team's gonna be with the new staff that they brought in. Craig Stammen over there.
Mm.
Shout out Craig Stammen, former national. We Craig Stammen, right?
Wrong former national. Kurt Suzuki is with the
Kurt
Angels.
Suzuki. That's right. He's on the
Craig
staff
Stamens
though.
with the Padres.
Shout out former nationals getting coaching jobs everywhere.
Yeah.
Uh,
Adam Eaton's their first base coach.
mm-hmm. It's fun. I like it. I
Yeah.
love hearing these names. I'm waiting for Tyler Clippard to get a job somewhere. Uh,
I mean, I think he did, didn't he?
he might have. I haven't heard him. I haven't heard his name since he was on the Diamondbacks like 5 years ago. But there is this is a big mess around all of baseball right now. Where I don't know what your read is on this, but there's obviously the CBA discussion that's looming over really this entire offseason. We're seeing some teams spend big. The Blue Jays just gave out their biggest contract ever to Dylan Cease, 7 years, $210 million after making it to the World Series. And we're also seeing some other teams being a little more stingy because they don't know how this is going to affect things. Is this going to be a boom or a bust free agency as far as total money being spent, you think?
I mean, compared to some of the past off seasons,
Yeah.
probably going to see it lower. Just because. Sorry about that. Just because, well, the past two off seasons you had Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani. So I mean, overall contract value is probably going to be a little bit lower. Uh, but I don't think many front offices are operating under the assumption that there's going to be a lockout or a lockout, I guess, would be the only way we could have it. Um, yeah, so I don't think that's necessarily influencing people at all. The one thing that kind of was rubbing me the wrong way, the story this offseason, was the Reds were going to match the Kyle Schwarber contract. But then once they didn't sign Kyle Schwarber, then they were like, okay, well, I guess we're just gonna pocket that money and just kind of go about how we normally would operate. Uh, which is a shame because I mean the NL Central is, I mean, Brewers are obviously a very good team, but it's a very winnable division. Um,
And they made the playoffs last year. Like,
they did they?
yeah, the Reds made the playoffs last year.
I don't remember them making the playoffs, but yeah,
They
I
snuck
mean
into that final wild card slot and they got murdered by the Dodgers in the wild card round.
that's probably why I
Yeah.
forgot then. Yeah, that would explain it. But I mean, like they could be a very good, be a solid contender in that NL Central. So I just that bothers me a little bit, especially when we kind of blame the Dodgers for all of the issues. I think that's more of an issue with the current MLB landscape. And they kind of circled back to the O's and Pete Alonso. The thing I really do like about this is while I don't like necessarily the amount of money, and I don't think it's necessarily the best deal ever for the O's from like a value standpoint in the production you're gonna get from Pete Alonso. One thing that I do think and is that you're showing that you're willing to spend money for a free agent. Because they let Corbin Burns walk away just a little bit ago. The O's historically aren't giving out these massive paydays. So showing, hey, we are willing to spend, and maybe you can go in, grab a big arm, grab a couple solid arms, uh, show you actually mean business. I think is good for the sport.
Yeah, no, I've heard Mike Elias said that he wants to get another arm. Whether that's a trade for a Mackenzie Gore or whether that's signing a guy like Robert Suarez, the not Robert Suarez, Phillies starting pitcher,
Ranger Suarez.
Ranger Suarez. Yep, Ranger Suarez, or a guy like Framber Valdez. We'll have to see, but I think that's something interesting to keep an eye on because I do think they're going to get a big arm. They don't trade away Grayson Rodriguez without having a contingency plan, especially with how much money they're spending this offseason getting Pete Alonso. You assume they're probably going to extend an offer to Taylor Ward, whether or not he accepts that up in the air. But they're spending money, and that's good to see. There are teams that are spending money. The Royals earlier today, 5-year contract extension for Michael Garcia. They're spending money. The Braves and the Dodgers, they always spend money. The Braves get another closer, Robert Suarez. That's why it was in my brain. Uh,
Yeah,
uh, 2 years 45, 3 years $45 million for
3 years,
him.
45. Yeah,
Uh, they just seem to go through elite closers like it's pocket change. Just get one, discard the next, over and over again, some kind of crazy cycle. So I'm not super excited for that move, as much as I probably should be, because he's a really great pitcher, a great closer. They
he's their
feel
setup
like they
guy.
do this every single year, where they just
He's
get
their
a
setup guy,
different
Jeremy.
one. Huh?
He's their setup guy.
He's their setup guy?
He's their eighth inning guy.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That Braves bullpen is insane. It,
yeah.
it 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 always is. They always do
Why
this.
not? Why not?
I guess. I mean, they have other issues they need to address, like depth. They need some depth. They need good depth. They keep getting hurt.
Well, Jeremy. Now you can move your eighth best reliever to AAA, and now you have, they're a deeper bullpen now.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's an extra guy in there now. It's deeper.
I guess. But you don't need
You don't have
depth
to
pitching.
rely
You
on
need
Rysel.
depth in the lineup right now.
Well, that's why they signed Mike Yastrzemski.
Mike Yastrzemski isn't moving the needle. I guess. I mean, I guess he is. That's depth.
Yeah,
That's depth. I
yeah.
see it.
He's
I
a two
see
and a
it.
half win player.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what? Shout out to the Braves. They're doing things. But they weren't the only ones that went out and signed a big closer. You mentioned it earlier. The Dodgers went and got Edwin Diaz. 3 years, $69 million. Big contract. People are going crazy. The Dodgers did it again. I mean, I guess they did. This
yeah,
doesn't seem like insane money to me. And maybe I'm way wrong on that, but this doesn't seem like only Dodgers money. It feels like a lot of teams around the league, if they really wanted to, could pony up the cash this exact contract for Edwin Diaz.
yeah. I mean, and I think probably where some of that disconnect comes from is that Edwin Diaz uh has the name value of being one of the top arms in MLB in the bullpen, but he's like a top 15 closer.
I'd say top 10 probably.
Yeah, but there's a clear gap between like somebody like Mason Miller and him,
Yes.
right? He is one of the more reliable closers, but he's not the guy in MLB right now.
Injuries have
He
taken
was
a
a
bit
few
of a
years
toll,
ago.
yeah.
He's not the guy anymore, and that's why I think people were a little kind of confused. The Mets basically traded. They have Devin Williams now to
Right.
be that closer instead, and so I think they're pretty much the same, right? They're not the best reliever in baseball, but they're one of those top 10 guys, top guys where they're in that A tier, I would say. They're not the S tier
Mhm.
reliever. And so, I mean, the Dodgers are better. You saw the bullpen length was kind of the scary thing for them in that World Series run. That was
Right.
kind of the knock on them during that whole run. And now they go out and get one of the bigger bullpen names in all of baseball, somebody who, had a 1.63 ERA last season. So, good for them. That team's just better and scarier than they were. But we saw them kind of not be the super scary thing. I mean, the Blue Jays at the end of the day took them to 7 games, and they had a lot of flaws on their roster as well. So I mean, the Dodgers gotta get better if they're gonna try to three-peat.
Yeah, I mean we've kind of danced around it a lot. We've talked about a lot of big contracts, but Kyle Schwarber was like the big domino to fall here. 5 years,
Uh-huh.
150 million to return to Philly. The Orioles offered him the same deal. The Reds were in the market there. The Pirates are giving up a lot of money this offseason, or at least offering a lot of money. Nobody's really taken it yet, but they're in these conversations. What do you think about that deal? Because Kyle Schwarber, he's like 33 at this point. He's not going to be the same guy when he's 38. He's exciting, and I think the Phillies needed him. I think this is the thing they needed more than Schwarber needed. But this is a lot of money for a guy that's going to be 38 at the end of the contract.
Yeah, no, I mean it's what's the quote? If you're gonna act logical with some of these free agent signings, you're always gonna come third. So I mean, to keep somebody who was integral to that clubhouse and integral to that lineup, you kind of had to pony up the cash. Uh, I'm a little worried about what the Phillies are going to look like in 4 years. When you're on the tail end of a lot of these big contracts. Uh, but they're going to be a really fun team. They're going to be a really competitive team in the National League until then. Uh, there wasn't really a way to kind of replace Schwarber's production either internally or on the trade market or with any other free agent. I don't think they. I mean, he got a significantly smaller contract than I think Kyle Tucker's going to get, and that's the only other player who kind of production-wise would replace him. I don't think he's going to be the MVP candidate that he was this year,
Hmm.
but he's still going to be a really key piece in that lineup. He's going to strike out a lot. He's going to have a low batting average. He's going to hit a ton of home runs. And he's going to get on base a lot. He's the three true outcome hitter. Uh, but when he's hot, I mean, he's one of the deadliest hitters in all of baseball.
Yeah, there's no one better than him at hitting the ball out of a ballpark when he's hot. It's just it's magnetic, the
Shohei?
ball to the bat. No, not when he's hot.
Shohei when he's hot?
Yeah, well, that's different. I'm talking about normal people versus a hot Schwarber. Uh,
Okay.
I guess you could throw Aaron Judge in that conversation too, but
Aaron
yeah,
Judge, Jordan
yeah, yeah,
Alvarez,
yeah, yeah,
James Wood when he's hot.
yeah. He's got some great peaks though, and I do
Kyle
think
Raleigh.
this is the deal that the Phillies needed to make, and I think this is a great signing for them. But there's still some big free agents out there. You brought up Kyle Tucker. I think the Mets are going to go out and get him. I think they're spent a lot of money to go get him. Uh, I know we just talked about them not spending money, Hayden, but they just cleared up a lot of cap space.
Yeah, but I don't listen. I think Kyle Tucker is a great baseball player. Kyle Tucker is not a baseball player I would give $400 million to.
No, but someone is.
Somebody is. And good for them. Whoever does, I hope that fan base is super excited to have Kyle Tucker play for the baseball team. But again, I just with the type of moves that the Mets have been making this offseason, it does not, it doesn't make sense to move on from Nimmo, like move off of that contract. Obviously, Simeon and him for the next 3 years, it's the same value. Uh, and not extending Pete Alonso to then go get Kyle Tucker, that just doesn't seem like the move to me.
But it's Steve Cohen at the top of all of this, and he loves his splashy moves. He's got the money to do it too.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I just think there's other ways. I think they probably are somebody who's more in line to go grab an arm and go
They
make a
do need an
splashy
arm.
move
They
for
need
an
an arm
arm.
bad.
Like you go get, go get Ranger Suarez, go get, Michael King, go spend some of that money there, and then, that makes sense to me. Uh, but going to go get Kyle Tucker, that doesn't track
Yeah,
to
I could
me.
see it. I understand. They need an arm, but I just think the Mets fans are outraged right now after losing Pete Alonso. So
Hmm.
they're gonna have to make a move before the offseason is done. Whether that's a big arm or a big bat to replace him, something's going to happen up in New York with the Mets, and something big is going to happen up there. There's still lots of big free agents, still lots of big storylines around the MLB. Is there anything that's interesting to you right now that you wanted to touch on before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the whole CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore thing kind of sticks out. That's a story that's kind of just slowly been developing over the course of the winter meetings. Mackenzie Gore more so the entire offseason, CJ Abrams winter meetings. And there was talks and kind of rumors that it was kind of going to be happening any day now. Still hasn't happened. A lot of teams are going to be interested in both those players. Mackenzie Gore obviously has his second half production fall off woes that a lot of teams are probably going to be a little bit more scared about. CJ Abrams, obviously the big defensive concerns, the inconsistencies at the plate. But overall over the course of a season, he's a great ball player. Um, yeah, it's just interesting what the Nats are gonna do with that. Paul Timoni, new GM, a whole new coaching staff there. It really is gonna kind of be the question of how bad do we really think that the previous coaching staff was at getting as much as they could out of these players?
Yeah,
Because if you think, sorry, what were we gonna say,
now
Jake?
go for it.
I was gonna say if you think that this coaching staff can elevate these guys significantly, obviously you run the risk of having these guys get injured. But I think it makes a lot of sense to hold on to these players, especially if you think, hey, we can get another level out of Dylan Cruz, out of James Wood. We think a full season of Dalen Lyle will make us a significantly better team. Where, we just talked about how the Mets on paper probably just got a little bit worse, losing Edwin Diaz, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo. The Phillies are only getting older. You never know what's going to happen, especially now that they've lost Ranger Suarez, potentially. He's still a free agent. And the Braves aren't super scary. You talk about the lack of depth. One injury kind of keep them out of the playoffs. The Nats could theoretically make a run in the season if everything, all the dominoes fall right, right? We talk about that 10% outcome there in the playoffs.
Right. Right. That
So,
that that is the 10% outcome though. That's not the normal thing. I do think to a certain extent this team is going to take a leap forward just because I do think that coaching staff was holding them back like a lot. Like really a lot. They don't believe in analytics back then. They didn't know how to fix their pitching. That's been a story forever under the Nationals former regime. That needed to be fixed. So I say give it
yeah.
one more shot, but I also do understand if you want to get the value for a guy like Gore or a guy like Abrams right now.
Yeah, no, I mean it's makes perfect sense. I mean, you see teams still paying that premium for players, knowing that hey, this coaching staff wasn't the best. These, the player development on in this franchise wasn't the best. With that, the even though Harry Ford isn't the shiniest prospect anymore, probably more name than actual, production wise, and value wise. He's much more of the name is where that value comes from. They still got him for a reliever, so you're
It's
getting an
pretty good.
everyday catcher, teams are going to pay a lot. I think the only thing that really throws a wrench in that, at least for the Gore market, is going to be a Screwball gets moved.
Right. Cuz that's going to be the big fish, which honestly, I'd be surprised if they moved him. I think they'll probably work something out, but they're really far apart according to reports. So like
Yeah.
I think it'd be a mistake for the Tigers to trade him. I really do. I think they're building
Yeah,
something over there, and I think they should invest. But that's not something owners like to do in baseball right now.
no. But I mean, that's just, that's the world we live in. You gotta get those franchise values up, keep payroll low, get all that money. Let's go.
Yay,
Baseball.
capitalism! Yay! Let's
Get all of
go.
that rev share money.
I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Alex Bregman because that's an interesting situation right now. We'll end the show on that. Give me your thoughts on what's going on with Bregman, his contract, and the negotiations in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, he's another one of those players where I don't think people are going to pay him what he wants to be paid. I mean, Pete Alonso got more than I thought he would. Kyle Schwarber got more than I thought he would. So Alex Bregman's probably going to get more than I thought he would. Um, but you kind of see his market stalling a little bit. I think the Red Sox are still the one big player for him. And you're starting to see Boris kind of shift things over, kind of try to raise his stock up a little bit. You saw him talk about how Bregman would want to go play in Seattle. The Mariners aren't really looking to add a second baseman or a third baseman. They're kind of content with their options there, Ben Williamson and Cole Young. And so I just don't see a way in where Bregman ends up anywhere other than the Red Sox. And I think the Red Sox know that, and they're not going to give him any more. But it is a really interesting thing. Maybe a team scoops in is like, okay, cool, we can give Bregman 150 million, 180 million, and he'll be our third baseman for the next 6-7 years.
So then here's the question with that. Was opting out a mistake from his contract he signed last year?
Um, I mean, I think in the end he's going to get more than that 80 million that he opted out of. But uh, I mean, I think signing that contract was probably. I mean, I don't know what his offers he had last offseason was,
I assume he
or
took the
were.
most, or the one that gave him the most flexibility at a minimum.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one that gave him the most flexibility. But I don't know what he was offered previously. I think he's gonna have a hard time topping that AAV, obviously. And I mean, I don't think Bregman's gonna go play for like the Rockies,
Mm-mm.
you know.
He wants to
And
win.
so he wants to win, and so it's hard to find a team that's going to give him a lot of money, while also being a contender, because those things kind of don't really align in modern baseball.
Nope.
The teams that are good tend to be a little bit smarter with their free agent acquisitions, and so it's hard to kind of get a guy with some flaws, some warts to his profile, to give him the big Soto money, give him $400 million, $300 million.
Yeah, we'll have to see with that. We'll keep you updated on everything going on around the world of baseball. Winter meetings wrapping up. There's going to be some big news. I can feel it. Tomorrow there's going to be some big news that makes half of the stuff we talked about today look kind of out of date. I
Shohei Ohtani traded
Shohei Ohtani traded to the Nationals
for CJ Abrams
and
and
Harry
Mackenzie
Ford.
Gore straight
That's
up?
it.
Maybe. We
Could
don't
be.
know.
Harry Ford could be something. This is what we're finding out.
This is what we'll find out. Is he actually a catcher? We don't know.
Taboni says he is.
Yeah.
We'll find out. But anyway, thank you everybody so much for tuning in to the Triple Threat Show today. We have been your hosts, Jeremy Lapidus and baseball expert Haden Raymer. We will be back soon. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday, who knows? But we'll be back then. I will see you then. Have a good one. Bye-bye.